In this segment, Stephanie Miller is joined by a former FBI agent to discuss the Charlie Kirk assassination and the growing dangers of political violence.
And clearly there's indication of pre-planning here. You don't find this building. Remember, Charlie was under a tent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not an easy shot. So you've got to find a line of sight. You got to know where your target is. You got to be familiar with the buildings and how to get in and out undetected. Yeah, someone spent some time on this.
We know when you appear on TV, something bad has happened. So I know you're in high demand. Former FBI Frank Figliuzzi. So Frank, let's start with the FBI had a press conference this morning already. So they said they're still engaged in an active manhunt for a college-aged shooter. They recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area where Kirk's killer is believed to have fled. They confirmed they have images of the assassin. They're analyzing video of the gunman's movements as well as palm and footprints near the weapon. So, I mean, that seems like a lot of information so far. What's your take?
Good morning, Stephanie. That's a good start for evidence collection. That's something you can go on. Why do I say that? The recovery of the gun is very significant. So you've got this physical piece of evidence that could be traceable through ATF. There's no magic database. You know, people think, oh, the government keeps a database of all the weapons and who has them. Yeah, not really, but they're going to be able to look at that serial number if it's on there, if it's not 3D printed.
Yeah.
And they're going to get fingerprints, hopefully, off of that, maybe even DNA from perspiration. There's a lot that goes on there. And of course, if you recover the round that was fired, you can trace that to the weapon and match it. And so a lot there. The college age description makes sense for someone who can come and go and not arouse suspicion.
Yeah.
Who knows? Is this a student? There, we don't know, but certainly he would fit in on a college campus. So they've got something to go on. But the notion that there is a killer sniper out there on the loose is not heartwarming, is it?
No.
Frank, it's interesting you use the word sniper because I said that earlier too. And I've heard other analysts say that this shooter obviously this was not an amateur. It was obviously someone well acquainted with shooting long-range rifles. 200 yards is a couple of football fields away, right?
Yeah, it's important though. So even though I use the word sniper, let me put it in context, Stephanie, because it's important. This does not mean a 200-yard shot, or some say a 150-yard shot, does not mean that we're talking about a highly skilled military special ops guy, or even necessarily a law enforcement guy. We don't know. 200 yards, 150 yards is not extraordinary. Accuracy at that distance is interesting, although not to be completely morose and graphic, but a highly trained sniper would have a slightly different placement of his round. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But so it means someone is familiar with their weapon and has practiced, and clearly there's indication of pre-planning here. You don't find this building. Remember, Charlie was under a tent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not an easy shot. So you've got to find a line of sight. You got to know where your target is. You got to be familiar with the buildings and how to get in and out undetected. Someone spent some time on this. What does that mean? More likely, not definite, but the pre-planning makes it more likely that this was political in nature. This was not an impulsive thing. I don't like what you just said, Charlie. I'm taking out a revolver and shooting you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, we were saying from doing our tour, Frank, we had metal detectors and plainclothes, policemen, off-duty policemen and other security. I mean, anyone that's in any public forum knows what the environment is out there. But obviously this was an outdoor event, so there weren't metal detectors, right?
Very difficult when you're dealing with outdoor events. We certainly learned that in Butler, Pennsylvania. But a private speaker like this, of course, doesn't get the full panoply of services from the Secret Service. He, as best we know, he may have had a couple of close-in guys that he paid for. That's close in. That's somebody trying to punch you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not helpful when you're dealing with someone who's going to fire from hundreds of yards away.
Yeah. So I saw you on TV. You were talking about Trump using FBI agents as a resource for ICE, was keeping them from working on real terrorism cases. Now there's a political assassination. We need congressional investigation to determine if the FBI was laser focused on their job and had a competent director. Would Charlie Kirk attack could it have been stopped? Charlie Kirk was the biggest, was calling for the release of the Epstein files. And again, so, there's some speculation. Was this someone in MAGA to his right? We don't know yet. I mean, of course, the president, as usual, irresponsibly, without a shooter or a motive or anything, has blamed, the left wing in general, right?
So has Nancy Mace from South Carolina, immediately swinging to the Democrats. We don't know. I keep saying this every time I comment on this now. In the last 24 hours, we don't know. But this situation is just surreal in the sense that we're in our own little bubbles. We believe what we want to believe, right?
Yeah.
And the conspiracy theories are outright ridiculous. But here's the deal. What you're quoting me from is back in April. I was on the Dean Obeidallah radio show,
Right.
and we were talking about changes to the FBI.
Yeah.
And I said, look, you have to understand the majority of these agents that are being taken out of the office to work chase migrants around in the morning at Home Depot,
Yeah.
or fare skippers at the metro station in Washington, D.C., which they're doing, are terrorism agents. They're coming from joint terrorism task forces.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's not getting done? And yes, it's early. We don't know if this guy was on the radar screen. We don't know if he's part of some domestic terror organization or was under investigation. But we know this. I guarantee you, agents in the Salt Lake City field office and around the country who should be working domestic terrorism are weakened and undermined because they're doing something else.
And we should all be upset about that, Frank. I mean, this last shooter that had all the racist and anti-Semitic and whatever. What is it, like some smears on his guns themselves? Like they were saying that footprint was out there for a month or something online, and that certainly seems like something the FBI may have missed because their focus, as you say, being on immigration. I mean, one other thing, Ken Delanian of NBC said, worth remembering, Nikesh Patel fired the highly regarded head of the FBI field office in Salt Lake City just a few weeks ago for reasons that are not clear. Do you know anything about that? Or
I do.
Okay.
A couple of things. I know that she happens to be ethnically Middle Eastern. I believe she's Pakistani, and I believe she's been labeled as a DEI hire. I need to tell you something. At the point that you become a special agent in charge of an entire region, talking about you as a DEI hire is ridiculous. So, but she didn't fit the mold for somebody, and out she goes. And this poor guy that's in charge now, I don't know where he came from, but I feel for him.
Yeah.